вас тогда к экрану. Спасибо большое.
Right. Thank you. Do you hear me? Please confirm.
Yes, да.
Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be here. And I'm speaking to you from Italy, from Florence. And unfortunately, the connection might not be so good because Italy right now is flooded and there is water everywhere. But I hope that I can still go on, and that you can hear me, and then you can see me on the screen, maybe. If you have problem, please write on the chat line. And I would say that I am very unhappy not to be there. I would love to be, but I am happy anyway to be here in virtual form. And let's see, I try to take no more than 20 minutes of your time to discuss a few things on which I've been working during the past few years, about the Earth as a metabolic creature, as a living creature, as a, using the word that we owe to Lynn Margulis, which is a holobiont. The Earth is a living creature. So let me see if I can share my screen. Maybe I can. Let's see in 1 second. Are you seeing me? Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the Earth as a metabolic system. And let's see, with an idea which we owe to a group of people, including Viktor Gorshkov, Mikhail Budiko, who were the pioneers in this field. And you may have seen this image, which comes from the site Biotic Regulation, but the idea of biotic regulation goes to Viktor Gorshkov. And as living beings are not in equilibrium, living beings are in homeostasis. And so if we go out of the homeostasis, the Earth dies, because the stable systems for Earth are a very hot or very cold conditions, which the ecosystem, the biosphere, cannot survive. Hundred million years, maybe more, maybe less, but it will. And we not impossible that we could give it a good push, but we hope not. But I would like to discuss with you for a few minutes about some perturbations we are producing on the Earth system, which is not climate, it is not temperature, which is a very well-known subject. So everybody's discussing climate, and in Italy, as I was telling you, everybody now is discussing climate, because we are been having a huge flood, but it's maybe due to climate change or something else. But anyway, never mind that. So metabolism. What is metabolism? It's an extremely complicated story in as everything has point, the main elements of the Earth's metabolism are these two reactions. One, the one above you recognize is the photosynthesis reaction, which produces hydrocarbons, produces essentially, and out of carbon dioxide. We are made, our body is made of carbon mainly, which came from CO2 molecules, which are earlier on outcasted by the depth of the Earth. Now, if you have to have a cycle, you have to have a stable system. You have to return, you have to go around, and the other reaction is the respiration reaction. As you know, it is being done in our bodies where oxygen consumes glucose mainly to produce again CO2 and cycles and cycles and cycles. And that's one of the factors, only one of the factors of the Earth's stability. All right. So the question is, what creates this stability? How and why the system is the way it is? So, for instance, the metabolism you have noted is based on three main gases: oxygen, water vapor. Yes. That's life is difficult. Okay, please tell me what I should do. I am seeing my screen shared. Is this okay? Is it okay?
Yes.
Thank you. So I keep going, right? I'm sorry because I suspected the connection would not be so good, but I hope you can bear with me. If you have problems, please tell me. We try to do our best in a difficult world. So the question I would like to ask is, why do we have exactly this composition for the atmosphere? And I would like to tell you, to show you that it's not random, it is not casual. There is a reason. What we are seeing here is part of the metabolic regulation of the planet, or what Viktor Gorshkov called the biotic regulation. And so one first point is why CO2, carbon dioxide, is so small. Many people say, well, what could ever carbon dioxide do if it is such a small concentration? It's so low. And so this is, as you know, you can measure carbon dioxide concentration if you like. It says here and why is oxygen so high? What regulates the system? And first point is that the oxygen. Wait one second. If I can change the. I'm sorry. Can I change my? I'm sorry. One second. Uh, hmm. My thing is stuck. I'm very sorry about that. Can you see my screen now? Okay, better. That oxygen, I hope you're seeing it. And the oxygen, as you see, we are on a scale of about 400 million years, which is most of the Phanerozoic eon, which is before this time, oxygen was very low. It existed, but it was there. And then we have had this stability for about 400 million years. It is kept there by two main factors. One is the biosphere itself, which cycles it, and the other is fires. It would be a very interesting story to go in detail, but we cannot have too much oxygen in the atmosphere right now because it would burn everything. So if oxygen grows up too much, it burns things and then it is taken down. So it's one kind of the many regulation points of the system. But oxygen is okay. Oxygen is reasonably stable, no more. Some people say about 20% change up and down. What changes a lot is the carbon dioxide over the same time span. We see we have here a scale which is PAL, which is pre-industrial atmospheric level. So about 500 million years ago, we had more than 10 times more CO2 than today. And this is one of the main points of the Earth's regulation system on temperature. CO2 is the water vapor, which is the main greenhouse gas in the atmosphere. So this decline that you see here is really part of the regulation, the way that the system is compensating for the increase in the luminosity of the sun over time, which is a very, very slow process. As you see, the scale of the figure on the right, on the left, is billions of years, but temperature over this long period has been, on the average, constant regulation. If the system would react directly to the increasing solar luminosity, it would see an increase in temperature, which we do not see. So we do expect CO2 would go down. It's an intuition. This mainly the first who had it was James Lovelock, the father of the concept of Gaia, said CO2 must go down to keep temperature low, and eventually everything will die because we won't have enough CO2. Then what is happening now, as you all know, is that we are changing a lot. We have affecting a perturbation of the system, which is very strong. And the main worry, the main effect, what everybody is worried about is temperature. But I will spend a little time to discuss different sub-entities that are changing. One is, for instance, is global greening, because we are more CO2. And as people say, CO2 is plant food, which is it is. And we have a remarkable and visible increase in the greening of the system, especially in Africa. We have this effect. Some people say it is a good thing. It probably is within limits. It's a good thing, but it is not stopping global warming. It's not stopping other effects of CO2. It is probably going to saturate soon. And for instance, one negative effect is that you reduce the runoff for nutrients into the ocean. So you grow more trees, but you starve the oceans. You see, the system is like this. The system is a series of feedbacks, which you change something and you cannot change just one thing. As you know, this is the basic law of biology. And you know that one problem which is neglected, and very few people discuss about that, but it is very important. It is ocean acidification. This is what you see on the top left is the pH of the oceans, which is going down. The ocean is getting acid. Getting acid, people say, well, it's not very much, just a few parts, but it is a logarithmic scale. So the effect is strong, much stronger than you would think from this data. And probably because people don't understand logarithms, you see in this diagram of the or what they call tipping points. Tipping points, ocean acidification is supposed to be still in the safe operation space, which really we have no idea whether it is true or not. It is what you see here is the result not of science, but of diplomacy. People have been discussing that. Is the ocean acidification a serious problem? Nobody knows. So maybe it is safe. Who knows? Never mind. It's a big problem of which we know. But I would like to show you the main point of my talk is another one. Because if you acidify the oceans with CO2, you are also acidifying your blood, because you have a liquid inside your body, which is called blood. And this blood is rather necessary because you are transporting oxygen from the air to the lungs. You exchange it in the lungs with this heavy tucked into molecules which transport it all the way to your mitochondria in your body, also to your brain. Your mitochondria need oxygen. Without oxygen, the mitochondria aerobic reaction, glycolysis, and then you get a cancer probably. But you see, it's a very delicate regulation, as everything on this planet is a very, very delicate, and you have to know that you're changing the CO2 concentration, you're changing the mechanism, the equilibrium conditions of this reaction. You have to tuck oxygen onto this molecule, which is called hemoglobin or hemoglobin, I'm not sure. And this molecule acts as a truck, transports oxygen, safely bonded to the iron atom. Attention, oxygen is a poison, so you don't want it to have it free in your body. You want to keep it stuck there. And through these complex and interesting and fascinating thing, that means that you have an incredibly complicated story of how. But it is what is fascinating in here is that CO2 is not just something that your mitochondria excrete and you have to take out of the body, which is okay. It is what you call an allosteric its shape, and the molecule knows when it has to load oxygen or to unload it from a signal that it gets from the mitochondria, which excrete oxygen. It's a fascinating story, incredibly fascinating, incredibly complicated, because once you start changing the CO2 concentration inside your body, huge changes happen everywhere. It's not always bad, because you also need the CO2. CO2 is a signaling molecule that tells the body that it needs oxygen. So incidentally, there is a school of medicine, mainly Russian, which says that CO2 is medicine. It's good. With attention, it may be, but you have to be very careful. As usual, you have an equilibrium, you have a homeostasis situation, you change one parameter, and everything goes off balance and disaster. Anyway, what happens? This is called the Bohr effect. The Bohr effect, it's the triggering effect that tells your body, tells your system, the transport system, when it is to release, absorb, release oxygen. You have more oxygen, you have sorry, you have more carbon dioxide, you have less oxygen, a little less. So one interesting thing that you may notice on the carbon dioxide curve is that the periods of low carbon dioxide have been periods of radiation increase, flowering of special life forms. It's during the Permian, 300 million years ago, life forms were not so impressive, but still were impressive with respect to everything that was before. Then we had the dinosaur age, and then finally we have our age, when our age is one probably the least concentrate, the smallest concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere ever in Earth's history. And we have some strange life form like these monkeys with these big heads and this big bulbous ecosystem. Had never seen anything like that. And why? Also, that's it. My hypothesis, I tell you, that it is due to the low CO2, which allowed the higher oxygenation of the brain, because the human brain really is another new number of neurons to volume. Humans are in another category, completely different. They're highly packed neuro here. That must weigh. It is why humans are so intelligent and sometimes so stupid. But never mind that. You see, this is the work of Susanna Herculano Hosel. Fantastic work. This lady has spent most of her life making brain soup, turning brains into a soup that then she analyzed. But anyway, you can see here, well, this is Spanish, but the number of neurons in relation to the mass of the brain is truly for humans. For humans, it's another word. Humans are very special creature, never seen before in the human in the Earth's ecosystem, because we have such a strong, high packing of neurons in your brain. Unbelievable, never seen. And my hypothesis that I present to you is the evolution of this very large number of neurons during the Pleistocene is due to the capability that low CO2 concentration allow to the human metabolism to send a lot of oxygen into the brain, because the brain, as you probably know, consumes about 25% of your metabolic energy. It's a lot. And also because you can see that also because we humans have a small mouth. The small mouth means that eat highly nutritious food that we use to feed the brain. The humans were made possible by two things: low CO2 and the development of cooking. But it's a long story. Let me go into that. Anyway, the point I wanted to show you, the point I wanted to make is that we lived up to few thousand years ago in a very, very special moment in Earth history. If you look at the oxygen to carbon dioxide ratio, you see this, and beside, apart the peak that you see at 350 million years ago is probably an artifact. It really goes up like this. We are in a special moment, but a little problem right now. If we are increasing CO2 in the atmosphere now, we are reverting, we are going down. And we have problems because CO2 is a metabolic poison. Metabolic poison. Again, you see here that they say that 800 is safe, but nobody really knows. It is one or more of those things we are moving into the future. It was about 280, 300. Now we are 420, and we're moving fast. And what? It's a poison. Over some limits, it is a poison. And what's happening? We don't know, but there is an effect that has been measured, a reduction in cognitive performance. If you have, easy to have, when you have a few people in this room, now it's okay because I am alone in this room, but put 5 people in this room, we have 1200, 14, and we have a reduction, halving of the cognitive performance. which is not a very good idea. And this phenomenon is called global dumping. And nobody really knows what it is due to, but it is known, and it is relatively well ascertained, that the intelligence level of humans is going down. And that you probably noticed that, but not let me go into that anyway. But you see, I wanted to show you something which, in my opinion, is very worrisome. Few decades, we have gone down back to the level of oxygen to CO2 ratio that was typical of the Miocene 30 million years ago, when there were no human beings. No creature so high in concentration of neurons in the brain existed. But this is, I think, a little worrisome. You tell me what is your opinion. But anyway, to summarize, CO2 is, of course, a climate forcing agent. It is creating global greening, which is good, maybe creating oceanic acidification, which is most likely not good, although we don't know how bad it is. It is a catalyst for the oxygen transport in blood, which is a very delicate thing and very dangerous. It is a poison. It has effects on the brain evolution, and this very worrisome effect, which is global dumping. And I close here. I would like to thank the institution with which I'm working, the Club of Rome and the World Academy of Arts and Science, which is not just groups of people who are studying. There are many, working with many informal groups, but I would like to conclude with just one evidence for global dumping, which tells us that I think it is clear that the global dumping is happening, and very unfortunately. And thank you very much for your attention.
Фундаментально меняет, ну, насколько я успел понять, да, то есть представление о том, как это было устроено. Вот. И меня, например, конечно, очень, хоть вы не захотели, это долгая история, но меня, например, очень взволновал параметр соотношения углекислого газа и нервной ткани. Если, может быть, чуть-чуть расширить это, но и пока коллеги подумают про вопросы, и, может быть, комментарии, Настя, у вас не будут? Ну, в общем, короче, тогда микрофон в зал, и, может быть, Уга все-таки немножко расскажет больше про историю. А куда вы его убрали? Поставьте на место. Вот в этом смысле по поводу именно мозга и углекислого газа.
Кому нужен микрофон, просто поднимайте руку.
Давайте мы Уга выведем, а не меня.
На экран давайте выведем спикера, а микрофоны будут ребята подходить.
Can I ask a question? Just a question. Do I understand correctly that when you talk about very high concentrations of CO2 as being dangerous, you mean that we don't really know the danger of long exposure? So when they say 50,000 is like deadly, but it is about short exposure. But we are now all permanently exposed to a quite high concentration. And this is like chronic. And this is the problem, right? Did I get you right? That we don't really know the danger of this chronic exposure to ever increasing and already high CO2
It's
levels.
yes, it is perfectly correct. It's chronic exposure because never in our history we are exposed to 400 or 420 parts per million over a lifetime. It's chronic. But the worst problem is not so much that in the open we have 420. If you go in a city it's already more than 500 because emissions. And then when you close the windows, you have all sorts of people and inside the room. Typically, you are around 1,000 or 1,500. So nobody knows, and there is this idea that global dumping could be caused by this effort. Nobody knows for sure. I have to say there are other possible explanations.
I also thought, just as a funny comment, that probably soon, right near the camel boxes in the airports, when you can smoke, you know, that the camel cigarette producer makes boxes in the airports, like when people can smoke, we can see CO2-free boxes when you can breathe normal levels of CO2. Thank you very much, Hugo. I must confess that for me, your ideas were like totally new. I have never thought about this before I learned from you some time ago about this problem. Thank you very much.
Anastasia, I learned so much from you. I learned so much from you that I will never get even, I think.
Спасибо большое. Еще еще есть вопросы в зале, коллеги, или на этом уровне? Уго, дорогой, спасибо вам огромное. Мы очень ценим и то, что с нами Анастасия и вас. Вот, я очень люблю вашу рассылку. Еще раз хочу сказать, да, недавно про метаболизм, как то, что у растений есть, в смысле у леса, да, некоторое подобие эндокринной системы. Это фантастика, конечно, да, про терпены и так далее. То есть очень с удовольствием читаю. Вот последние были. И, конечно, все, что касается холобионтов, теории Геи, это тоже, ну, как бы наряду, или, скажем так, в поддержку теории биотической регуляции, да, Виктора Георгиевича Горшкова и вот Анастасия, что говорит, это некоторые наши ключевые моменты для естествознания. Мы хотим вам тоже сказать, что сейчас в Кыргызстане мы пытаемся это в том числе вот выносить на столь высокий научный уровень, и даже потихонечку это входит уже в учебники школьной и университетской программы. Вот. Ну, правда, не все мейнстримовые идеи, но, по крайней мере, какие-то уже двигаются. Так что я думаю, что это должно греть нас всех. Вот. И, конечно, давайте продвигаться и опознавать дальше. Коллеги, если нет вопросов, мы давайте похлопаем дорогому Уго. Вот. И да, пожелаем сил, здоровья, благополучия. И надеюсь, что будем на связи. Вот нам очень приятно. А вас я приглашу на кофе. Спасибо, дорогой. Thank you very much. A big luck for you.
Thank you to everybody.
Keep in touch and thank you very much. Коллеги, тогда я объявлю, значит, ситуацию у нас сейчас получается уже